getting ready to do all that for you. Is there anything else I can do for you today?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for your help.
You're very welcome. I do hope you have a great day, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Oh, the unbelievable has happened. Go time!
Welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you, my friends, have the information you need to be able to watch what you want, where you want, when you want, on whatever device you want. I am newly cord-cutted Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, it's good to be actually live here in studio in your Los Angeles.
What are you doing here?
I just appeared here. Hello, beautiful folks. I'm Brian Brushwood, and let me make it very, very clear from the outset that, number one, we have always been a show that does not discriminate. If the best way for you to watch the content that you want to watch is on cable television, if you love your DVR, if you love your deal with DirecTV or AT&T, in fact, since the show started, I started cable again and canceled cable again.
You did it twice.
Both have been amazing experiences. However, having said all of that, I am thrilled to report that the half-decade reign of hypocrisy is finally over. Tom Merritt has cut the cord.
Well, actually, I cut a satellite cord.
Yeah,
it was wireless most of the way to house.
You just so in other words, you just stood in front of the satellite and did this.
Yeah.
Waved your hands.
I just rained
to mess up the signal.
Yeah. So that bit you heard at the beginning was the end of my call. We recorded the entire call because DirecTV said it was going to be recorded for quality purposes. Why can't I? And we made it available. If you're a Patreon backer at the $5 level or more, it's waiting for you at patreon.com.
Yeah, dude, that was a lot of fun. And what's funny is out of all the periscopes, I also periscoped it live. Out of all the periscoping I've ever done, we had the greatest retention rate and the most viewers simultaneously
right?
of all time. People were apparently riveted to watch you.
I want to hear a customer service call.
Well, we'll talk more about it later on. But first, we got to introduce this week's amazing guest. After way too long of an absence, thank you so much for joining us, Father Robert Balliser. How the heck have you been?
Oh, I've been great. It's so much nicer that I'm now on a show with the two of you. This has not happened since, Frame Rate, like 3 years ago? Something like that?
I
couldn't
face you on a cord-cutting show until I had actually canceled DirecTV.
That's right. It's sort of like getting
right
confession.
in under the wire.
Yeah,
I have a question about that. I have not had a cord for 3 years, but someone else in the house does have DirecTV, and I occasionally sneak over to his TV. Does that count?
You know what? All that matters, cord cutting.
Right. There's cord shaving.
Yep.
There's cord
nevers. Cord nevers.
And then there's cord cheating.
Cord cheating.
You're just,
Look, an important book once told me that cord killing is in your heart. If in your heart you believe that you're cutting the cord, then you're cutting the cord as far as I can.
And it's a good question.
So like vampire rules. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Cord cutting is not this show is, as Brian said, it's not about cutting the cord. It's about having control. And the one thing I wanted to show with this, it took me 13 minutes to cancel cable. Or satellite. It wasn't that bad, relatively speaking, but it would have taken me less than a minute to cancel PlayStation Vue. It would have taken me less than a minute to cancel Sling TV. Now, if I want to restart it, I have to call them and I have to go through a whole song and dance again. If I want to restart Sling TV or PlayStation Vue after I've canceled it, it takes me a minute. This is a much more modern system under these new services than it is even with DirecTV's rather painless cancellation.
Well, and keep in mind also, two things happened that were significant. Your cord cutting happened just after DirecTV was acquired by AT&T, and my experience from canceling with AT&T versus canceling with Time Warner were like night and day.
Might not have had anything to do with it as ridiculously soon after this. That was still a DirecTV representative.
No, correct.
Wait. Let me ask you this.
DirecTV has always given me pretty good service too, so yeah.
That's fine. What I'm saying is the corporate culture, and this is probably also why they merged, the corporate culture of both AT&T's Uverse and DirecTV has been very accommodating. You could tell he did do the kind of
But you're in
half-hearted...
SBC country. When I was trying to get AT&T set up in San Francisco, which was Pacific Bell country, it was horrible. So AT&T doesn't have a long history of great service.
Well, and keep in mind, AT&T is a bit of a Frankenstein patchwork because their wireless service is miserable in their customer service. But their Uverse service, at least in Austin, has been utterly exemplary. So it's tough to – that's the problem with mega brands that are really it's kind of like that book we were talking about with all the different nations of America.
And they still said, why did you sign up in the first place, which threw me off. I'm like – I don't know. I signed up a long time ago.
Yeah. Because I think your answer was because it was 1997 and it was the only way to watch TV.
Yeah, I think
Next question,
I said something
officer.
like that.
Wait a minute. Hold up. And you're all talking about the fact that this wasn't as painful as it could have been. But in this day and age, is there any reason for any of these services, since they all have online pages where you can check your billing and you can check how much you've been paying and what services you subscribe to, why that can't all be online? Other than the fact that they want a customer service retention specialist, shouldn't I be able to cancel every service I ever subscribe to with a click rather than a call?
Technically speaking, there's no reason not to, which is why Sling and PlayStation let you do it. But these historic companies want to keep you. They want to give you special deals. They want to convince you not to go.
Again, to their credit, DirecTV did not move you over to a customer retention specialist.
That's true.
The same agent walked you through it. He half-heartedly said the lines that, it'll at least try.
Oh, I don't know. I think he sounded pretty disappointed because he could tell.
Yeah, he could tell that there was no selling getting you back. Yeah. Well,
but don't we know this game?
We
know this game, right?
now.
I mean, we know that if we call and threaten to cancel, we'll probably get a deal for a year, 6 months, whatever. What's going to be the first company that says, you know what, I'm going to build in that customer retention into the website? So when you go to cancel, it's just a box that pops up and say, hey, look, we're sorry to see you go. Would you accept 50% off for the next 6 months?
Yeah. When you uncheck Sling stuff, it says, oh, hey, by the way, did you know we have this deal in case you don't want to go? And then if you still want to go, you just press save, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, and I encountered the same thing with Go to My PC. I did the free trial because I had an emergency, and then I canceled after the free trial, and they're like, okay, that $180 per year, just kidding. How about $99 a year?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
It's all a script anyway.
Yeah, sure.
It's a great point. All right, let's get into our primary target, folks. An NPD survey estimates that around half of U.S. internet homes now have some kind of connected television device. So to be clear, they're saying 46 million homes that have internet. So that's not of all homes. It's of homes that have internet, have a device that could be connected to the internet and play television. 45% of TVs sold in the United States in Q2 supported apps. And here's the kicker. 69% of all installed internet-capable TVs were online in Q2 2015. That one got me.
Well,
it wasn't just that they were existing in the house. More than 50%, 69, almost 70% actually had been plugged in to the internet.
Well, and that's the thing is you see the headline was half of U.S. homes now own a connected TV device. And then it goes on to explain connected TV device is a Roku, blah, 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 blah. Also, by the way, smart TV. And we've talked before where I'm convinced or had been convinced that connected TV device was the same as 3D capable television. 3D capable television means nothing because it's a feature that nobody's going to use because it's a pain in the butt and the home experience sucks. And so when I read that, I had my eyes rolling all the way to the back of my head until I told you, and you're like, no, dude, 60, what did you say, 65% of them?
69%.
Almost over 2/3 of all smart TVs are actually connected to the internet, which I find absolutely astonishing. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that they're all using them all the time, because I think in general, the smart TV connected experience is fairly miserable. But
it has been getting better, and I've heard good things about a few more recent TVs. Maybe that is changing things. Does this surprise you, Padre?
Not really, because if you look at some of the newer TVs, when you start it up, part of the startup process is, do you have a wireless system? Can I connect to it? So even people who have no idea what it's doing and would never actually access any of the connected features, they're going to go, oh, yeah, I remember. I have the Wi-Fi's. I have that wireless thing that I have somewhere, and my son wrote down my password, so they're going to put that in there. Boom, you're connected. That doesn't – the stat I want to see is how many of those connected smart TVs are actually streaming content from the internet and not just checking in date and time.
Man, if only Nielsen would really, man up and finally start monitoring this kind of thing.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, really, the significance to me of the MPD study is that we have plenty of homes with connected devices that can watch Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu. It's not necessarily about whether they're using smart TVs or Rokus. It's that a lot more people are taking advantage of this capability. And Nielsen is going to begin rating Netflix and Amazon starting in the mid-year. The Nielsen box will listen for shows. Now, here's the interesting thing. It will not be able to tell if Netflix originals are there when it launches, because the signatures it's going on are probably the signatures it already has in the system, which are network television shows. But they will be collecting ratings on streaming services so that people can buy that information from Nielsen. Brian, who's going to buy that information?
Well, so this is the weird part, is the entire purpose, and this is the thing you got to keep in mind. The whole purpose that Nielsen exists is because there was a time when advertisers wanted to know whose ads were worth the most. And in order to do that, you had to have some way of monitoring what people were watching because they were buying eyeballs at the time. These services outside of Hulu, I guess Hulu Plus, which I believe had already been sharing stuff with Nielsen. Is that right? I may be making that up.
You're thinking of, no, I know what you're thinking of. There is a program where Nielsen will rate current shows in their online form.
Right.
And so Hulu, because it is partnered with networks to show next day airings, is included in that. So there's a little overlap there.
Right.
Yeah.
So the weird thing is, like, what my immediate question was, what is the point of Nielsen even bothering to check this stuff? Because it's not like advertisers are going to buy time on Netflix. They're not going to buy time on Amazon Prime. And then the question was half out of my mouth, and you're like, Netflix's competitors. That's who wants to know. These are numbers that will likely never go public, that Nielsen will collect for their own and sell to the people who want to know the most what they're up against.
This feels like the music industry trying to shore up their dying business model. Nielsen is saying, look, we're still relevant. We could listen to shows. We could tell you who's streaming what. But you've got companies like Netflix and Amazon who can actually give you real metrics. Not we listen to 10% of the households in America and this is what we heard, but this is how many streams we served out. It seems like you're taking a new media metric and you're trying to shove it in an old media measure just so that you can sell it under your old business model. That makes no sense to me.
What's interesting is that you're right, because the first thought in my mind is, to whom would Netflix want to share? Netflix has the actual numbers, right? To whom would they want to share it? And the answer is internally. In order to get someone like David Fincher to do another series, they would give the actual numbers, like, look how good you're doing. They would keep it in-house, which is interesting because that makes me think two things. First of all, like, well, if you're Nielsen, why don't you just, listen in on those meetings, get some gossip and find out the numbers? But then it occurs to me that maybe Nielsen's purpose here could serve as a watchdog, a secondary confirmation to call out, whether or not, Netflix claims internally that they've done X, but our numbers show they've only done Y.
Well, I think it is tempting and probably partially true to look at Nielsen and say you're an outdated dinosaur, but they aren't going to spend a lot of money on something that they don't think they can sell or already have customers for. And I'll tell you who I think will buy this: CBS, Time Warner, ABC, Disney, because they will want to go to Nielsen and pay Nielsen as part of the package they're already paying for to get a little bit of an extra number for Netflix, so that when they go to Netflix and they want to negotiate and they're willing to say, you're undermining our ratings. Like, that is a meme now in the TV world, is Netflix undermines ratings because people watch old television shows on Netflix instead of syndicated or on primetime. They can say, and Nielsen shows that you have this many people watching that show you want to buy from us, or this collection of shows that you want to buy from us. And so we want to get this much money for it.
So keep in mind also that this is the Nielsen method, which means I suspect that it will not monitor stuff like people who watch stuff on their laptops or on their mobile devices.
It's listening. It's listening for audio signatures. So I'm curious, if you listen to an iPad near the box, will it tell, or is it only going to be able to pick up audio off the television?
Most likely, if you do so, you're going to be wearing it with earbuds in.
I think Netflix gets a fair amount off of a major television. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. So here's before we move forward on this, does this matter? Do you think this matters, Father Robert?
It only matters, just like Tom said, it matters to the big studios, to the ones who are already established. They have a formula right now. They have a spreadsheet in which they can say, well, if you're watching it this many times, this is how much it's worth, this is how much we should charge. They want something to plug into that formula. That doesn't work. Not just because Amazon and Netflix and YouTube are more new media focused, but also because if you look at Amazon and Netflix specifically, people pay for that without advertising. I don't have to care about my advertising metrics. I don't need to care how many people are watching my show if my show is actually paid for by my fans. I mean, that's a very popular old Patreon, now new world Patreon model that I don't think Nielsen has any input into whatsoever.
Man.
I think CBS is the ideal customer for this, because CBS runs its legacy shows that it owns on CBS All Access that it sells for $6 a month. And it wants to look at that and compare it to what it's getting from Netflix for all the shows like Star Trek that it sells to Netflix and say, okay, we know how many people are watching on CBS All Access as a percentage of subscribers. If Nielsen can tell us the same number for Netflix, then when we go into that meeting with Netflix, we know how much to ask them for.
I'll tell you what, man, it's a tremendously powerful position to be 100% viewer supported when all of your revenue comes from the people watching and loving your content.
CBS would love that to be the case.
Yeah, well, guess what? Guess who's got it? Us.
That's why I left CBS.
These guys, you did. You left CBS.
I foresaw
Peace Among Worlds.
Years ago.
Okay,
Hey, we want to give a shout out to
I just
our
want you all to
2000
know that my real job is entirely listener supported.
Well, that's true. That's true. This is, by the way, we want to give a quick thanks to the 2,170 beautiful people of the world who help keep this show loud, live, and independent. Every single dime you guys contribute matters. All of you guys together have made possible a life-changing change and the beginnings of a nascent new chapter of our lives. We provide as much value as we possibly can, hopefully a little bit of insight, and we're thrilled if you guys respond by showing us, throwing us what you think we're worth. And it matters the world.
And you can get an MP3 of me canceling DirecTV.
That's right. Oh, head on over to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Cordkillers and throw us your nickels. You get some extra bonuses in there as well, along with our undying love.
Everyone who did that paid for Signals Intelligence, which is next.
What? Signals Intelligence.
Yeah. This is where we talk about streaming services. Netflix is a streaming service. There are others. We used to only talk about Netflix, but they're back in the news, these young upstarts, because they are ending a 5-year movie deal with Epix. And by the way, in our previous incarnation on Frame Rate and now on Cordkillers, Brian and I have seen the birth, middle age, and now death of the Netflix Epix deal. If you don't know what Epix is, they are a movie channel. You can get them on cable, you can get them on Sling TV, but they also license the movies that they have the rights to other services. And one of those services has been Netflix. In 2012, they went non-exclusive and started licensing those movies to Amazon as well. So they canceled this deal, and Ted Sarandos of Netflix said, our focus has shifted to provide great movies and TV series for our members that are exclusive to Netflix. Epic's focus is to make sure that their movies will be widely available for consumers through a variety of platforms. He's basically saying no harm done. Epix has a different model, so we're cutting our cord with them. And Epix turned around and immediately sold the service to Hulu, which will get all of Epix movies October 1st. And Amazon will continue to have Epix movies as well. If you want to know what movies are on Epix, it's Hunger Games. It's a bunch of big
pretty much
name
the
movies.
post-DVD circuit,
It's
right?
MGM, MGM, Lionsgate, and Paramount movies.
So let me tell you two things that are contradictory to each other. Remember, this reminds me a lot of when Netflix lost the Starz deal. Like, it was hop in the time machine back with me 4 years, where you and I are at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, and we talked to the folks over at Starz, and even the ground soldiers there were very frustrated by the one-sided deal they had with Netflix, and then we were unsurprised when they canceled. They did not renew their deal. They couldn't come to an agreement with Starz. That was around the time, once they lost Starz, but before they had award-winning originals, that was when that also they did the Quickster thing, and Netflix stock had totally tanked, and they were kind of a punching bag for a little while.
For you.
So, well, for me, I enjoyed.
You
mocking
really laid
that.
it to them.
Yeah,
Man,
no,
you
I
did.
didn't hate.
It was a
them.
good time.
It was just, look, I know a punching bag when I see
They
it.
held up Quickster. You took a punch. Who's to blame you?
It's fine. But they ended up weathering the storm and coming out stronger than ever, right? On the other hand, the absence of these Epix movies makes me think, and I said something to you earlier, and I'd like to hear both of your thoughts on this. I suspect that Netflix could survive just fine not having a single movie more recent than 5 years, and their originals. So imagine a more comprehensive back catalog of all the best movies, the classics, your Ghostbusters, your Graduate, your Fight Clubs, your all, basically if it's older than 5 years, it's most likely on Netflix and probably affordable for them. If it's more recent than 5 years, go look somewhere else. And then Netflix originals, I think they could do great just on that business model. What do you think, Father Robert?
Well, I think they can do well without all the studio content as long as their originals continue to hold up. I think this move was actually inevitable because Netflix, if you look at the deals that they've been making over the years, they've been chasing something that's more and more elusive. These studios are starting to realize they could shop it around, they could sell their content elsewhere, or they could start up their own service. You've got things like the move that Bomber just made, where he's going to take the rights for doing Clippers games and he's going to put them online, probably because he can make more money that way. Netflix realizes it can't keep pumping money into content that other studios are making if it can make content that people will subscribe to Netflix to get. I mean, if Netflix gets something like a Game of Thrones, which I think House of Cards was really close to, Orange is the New Black was really close to, but if it gets something like that, who cares what else they have? And they could have just a ton of B movies just to fill in the blanks, to make it look as if they have a lot of content. But people really know, hey, I associate this show and this show I love with Netflix. I'm going to pay my $7 a month.
But I think people watch Netflix for television shows more than movies. Now, Variety quotes a source that says the average U.S. subscriber watches 1.8 movies per month. I think you could spin that number either way and say, ooh, that's a couple of movies a month, or you could say, well, that's not very many. They're watching less than two. But when I think of Netflix, I think of watching old television shows. When you look at my queue, it's old television shows. And I think most people watch a movie every once in a while on Netflix, but go back for the originals and for the catalog. So as long as they don't lose a significant number of the old television shows, they're fine for now. Where they're going is they want to be HBO. They want to have a series, a slate of originals that you have to subscribe to Netflix to watch because they're so amazing. And then maybe they'll be able to strike some more of these movie deals with the different studios and get some filler material in there the way HBO does. If you go to HBO now, it's a bunch of movies and then HBO originals. And I think Netflix would like to have that situation, but they're not too fussed about having the movies right now. Because again, HBO doesn't keep movies. They swap them in and out all the time.
Yeah, man, I have other thoughts, but I feel like we're running behind and it's just tangents.
What's your other thought? Come on. Out with it.
Well, real quick, one quick thing that you pointed out that you were reminded of. Was it an internal document on this
No,
passion
it's
brand?
their long-term manifesto. It's been up for a while.
Yeah, where they talked about the fact that Netflix is a focused passion brand, not a do-everything brand. Starbucks, not 7-Eleven. Southwest, not United.
Burn.
HBO, not Dish. And then and as I pointed out, scam stuff, not your General Magic store. But I love the fact that they clearly have a specific vision and that they're going with it, and that part of that involves saying no, saying no to things. Sometimes there's more power. I mean, that's Apple's entire brand has been built on what they say no to, not to what they say yes to.
All right, let's gear this place up with some gear that doesn't exist yet.
Yes.
We got some rumors.
But what direction shall we gear, though? Up. Okay.
Yes. Next week on Wednesday, Apple will have an announcement. It'll involve Siri. They said so on their invite. It'll involve phones. We all said so because why wouldn't it? I mean, this is when they announce phones. But 9 to 5 Mac's Mark Gurman, who has a pretty good track record, has sources that say the next Apple TV will be priced between $149 and $199. That's pricey. He says it will become available in October. It will have Siri voice control. It'll have gesture control on a new remote. It will have an app store, so there'll be an SDK for people to make apps for it. The current version of Apple TV, that's the little hockey puck, will stay at $69 and stay available as a cheaper version. And it is expected to be announced, like I said, on September 9th, next Wednesday. There is also a story from Mark Gurman saying that sources say Apple's going to really pitch the gaming aspect of this, that it will have Bluetooth controls for gaming. It will work with the gaming Bluetooth controls that you can currently buy for phones. And that app store will focus as much on gaming as it will on video.
So, first of all, someone, I believe Beatmaster in the chat just proposed an interesting rumor. He says, I bet the new Apple TV will support PlayStation controllers as OS X already does. But here's the thing, is when I first read this headline, I got excited because I hoped that the increased price meant an increased value to come with it, a premium service. But basically, maybe behind the deal, the problem with the Apple TV is not the content, or it's not the hardware, it's the content. It's what acquisition rights they have. It's what they're allowed to stream and not stream or whatever. That's the behind-the-scenes ugly legal mumbo-jumbo that we want to see resolved. And I'm worried that instead we're going to get hardware, another way to play Angry Birds. Who cares?
Yeah, but if you have an app store, then you can actually compete with Roku, and people are more likely to develop on the Apple platform because they already are.
I mean, that's
like
fine.
How many times do we have an app come out and say it's available for Roku and iPad, but it takes forever to show up on the Apple TV? I think that is a big advantage.
Yes. Okay. That's good on building a whole ecosystem of things that are not what I care the most about. Again, we're cord killers. We care about watching what we want, when we want, on whatever device we want. If this is going to be the device that I'm going to spend a lot more money on, I'm hoping that we get more content to watch.
Get Sling TV. Get a Sling TV app on there because you can get it on iPad. Why not get it on Apple TV? Why? Because they don't have an app store yet. If you can get HBO Now, which you already can, Hulu, Netflix, I mean, what are you missing?
That's actually real. Well, why don't we have that right now, though?
Because there's not an app store for Apple TV. They have to
I see.
wait.
Okay, so you're saying new device, it comes with the app store.
Am I crazy, Father Robert? I mean, yes.
I don't get the boxes. I don't understand them. I've got a stick here from Google. I've got an Apple TV, and I've got a couple of boxes that just died when Google tried to release them a couple of years ago. I don't need any more boxes. I don't have a big TV that I hook things up to. I've got computer monitors, and everything works off of my computer. That's my streaming device. That's my cord-cutted device. So when I look at something like this, and I go, okay, so it's kind of part Echo. It's got Siri built into it. It'll allow me to connect to my entertainment system. Maybe it lets me play a couple of games. It's not really compelling for me. I understand that there are some people for whom this might be compelling. I don't think nearly as many as they believe.
Well, here's the thing. You know that you are an outlier, Padre, in that, and first of all, you're 100% right. If you ask me, the solution, the one box to rule them all, is just take any kind of media PC and hook it up. You got all the horsepower. You got real connection to the internet. You can watch anything out there on, through web browsers and so on. But you are, as a percentage, a slice of a slice of a slice of an outlier. So short of that, it's clear that America wants simple devices that create ecosystems that let them do that kind of thing. And so in that regard, this might be the one that does it. I don't know. But I again, the real battle is the behind the scenes content acquisition battles. And that's what I don't see getting any better.
That's
with
not
this
going to happen.
announcement.
That is not going to happen this time. This is a hardware announcement only. It's not a service. Apple's service is delayed until next year again.
Jeez.
It will continue to be delayed for a long, long, long time. That's what I think. I don't know.
Man, I'll tell you what. It's so mixed up, this world, Tom. Sometimes I just want to lose myself in a good book. I want to go to some place far, far away with situations that wait, Tom, I'm in the middle of doing an ad pitch. What are you reading? What is that? His
mouth felt dry and he had a splitting headache. He hadn't felt this bad since the last time he had the flu. The bouncing cart didn't help. The last thing he remembered was working at the control box near the sculpture in the reliquary.
Keep going. This sounds really interesting.
I can't. We really need to get back to Cordkillers.
No, but what were you reading? Just so I can read it later.
It's kind of vain. I was reading my own book, Citadel 32.
But I've been hearing about Citadel 32. This is amazing. Yeah.
Where have you, besides me?
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter the source. What matters is I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. I hear you can read it for free in PDF form right now if you go to TomMerrittBooks.com.
That's right.
And you'll be supporting our show because we'll be supporting your artistic endeavors.
Right.
And we can throw you some books if we go on over to, Amazon Kindle and buy it there.
Yeah, TomMerrittBooks.com has links to Nook, Google Play, everywhere, and a free PDF if you just want to try it out because you're like, I don't believe Tom Merritt can write.
What a classy way. If you're somebody who objects to the Patreon platform, that seems like a good way to throw you a couple bucks and thank you for your artistic endeavors.
And I actually have had more than one person say they enjoyed it.
Well, let's not go crazy here.
If you have enjoyed it, leave a review on Amazon. That's what Andrew Main told me to say. TomMerrittBooks.com. Let's get to the front lines.
Yeah.
Front lines.
So here's another interesting way to do this. Cablevision will now resell CBS All Access, that service that I mentioned earlier, and Showtime's online-only version to its internet subscribers. So don't be confused. I'm not saying Cablevision will sell CBS as part of its cable package. Cablevision to its internet subscribers will sell the internet services, CBS All Access and Showtime. They already resell Hulu and HBO Now. It doesn't cost you any extra, but Cablevision gets a little cut of it, and it incentivizes them to sell internet subscriptions.
So here's my question to Padre. Do you think it really matters? This reselling of reselling matters to investors. It matters to people who are accustomed to getting a piece of the pie. But does it matter to consumers at all? Do they care where they buy it from?
Absolutely not. They don't care. They just want it. I mean, this is old rules of the internet, which is if you don't give me a way to get it, I'll find a way to get it. So figure out your business deals, and once you're happy, as long as I have a place where I can click to watch it, I don't care that much more.
I kind of like the convenience of having it all in one bill, I guess, but it does make it a little more complicated when I'm not in control of it. So I'm of a split mind, but I think it's smart of Cablevision to try.
But I guess also, I mean, I keep in mind, with scam stuff, there's a lot of stuff that we sell that you could find somewhere else. And so what we find ourselves having to do is try to make everything branded specifically to our audience to appeal to Scam School fans. That's interesting.
Yeah, this is Cablevision saying, look, if you're not going to pay us for TV over here, maybe you'll pay us for TV over here where you're actually watching it.
Which could be super smart. Hey, man, Discovery just launched an all 360-degree video web service at discoveryvr.com. You can watch the videos on web iOS or Android. The videos can be viewed through Google Cardboard and Samsung VR, and Oculus Rift support is coming soon. Videos feature content from Mythbusters, Gold Rush, and Survivorman, as well as general interest videos. I will say that nothing's happened
Brian
yet.
Brushwood is a Discovery scam school, blah, blah, blah.
That's right. The Scam School is owned by Discovery. And there has been talk about, like, how cool would it be to do some Scam School-related magic in this VR stuff? Like, what if there was an entire trick that you were in the center of and there was stuff happening at all times, and you would look over here and see this effect, and then this suddenly changed, or I don't know.
One of the first 6 channels I had on HD was Discovery HD Theater, and most of it was just pretty pictures.
Yep.
That just good for Discovery. They're doing it again. What do you think, Father Robert?
No. I want storytelling. I want a narrative. I want you to tell me what I should be watching. That's your job. If you give me a 360-degree panorama, that's fantastic. I'll use it. I'll use it as a technology demo, but I don't want to consume all my programming like that. Give me that beautiful under-the-ocean shot. Give me that beautiful mountaintop shot or that action shot, but don't think that I'm going to watch Mythbusters in 360 where I have to now focus the attention on what's relevant.
With all due respect, Father, I could think of one form of entertainment that I would be highly, highly interested to see all 360 degrees of, but that's
romantic
probably
comedies?
not a... There is an element of romance to it. I don't know how funny it is.
Amazon Prime Video will launch in Japan this autumn. They have interesting shows in Japan. Amazon says it will feature, quote, thousands of popular Japanese and U.S. movies and TV shows, anime series, music concerts, and variety shows, plus Amazon's own award-winning originals and new Japanese originals. Amazon Prime is only like the equivalent of $39 in Japan, so they're throwing in the video service on top of that. It seems like a winner, but Japan hasn't really picked up things like Hulu and Netflix as fast.
Well, they have their
as
own
other countries.
competing. They have a popular competing service, don't they? I forget which one
There's
it was.
that, but also people just watch different stuff.
Man, it's almost like people in the Far East are different than people in the West.
You were just there. Is
well,
that
yeah.
true? Can
Yeah.
you confirm that? You just
I
flew
can
in from
confirm that there are
Malaysia like
differences.
hours ago.
I can confirm that we're all one people and that we should all get along with
Peace
each
among
other.
worlds.
What do you say, Padre? Is this what's the big deal on this news to you?
It's just Amazon trying to get something that will draw people to the service, and they're not going to start with the content that Japanese viewers will like. It's just not going to happen. But they'll start rotating the content until they do. That's exactly what Netflix did. That's exactly what Amazon Prime did. Amazon Prime is finally starting to see some traction in the United States because they've hit the right content. Give them time for Japan.
Interesting. Sling TV now has an app available for Amazon's Kindle Fire tablets. It's free in the Amazon App Store. These stories are so interesting to me because we're reaching an uncanny valley where there are so many apps available in so many different places. And yes, in the early days, it's like, oh, it's finally available on blank or blank. But now it's almost like the news is where they're not available, and that's becoming the more extraordinary part of these stories.
HBO is reportedly working on another anthology series called Family Drama, at least that's a working title, according to the rumor, which will focus on a different Seattle area family every season. Apparently, the project comes from Lynn Shelton, who has directed episodes of comedies, mostly New Girl, Mindy Project, and Fresh Off the Boat.
So let me ask you this, Padre. If I removed one word out of this entire story and flipped it, how big a difference would it make in your impression of it? I'm going to read it, the exact same thing, just with a different network. ABC Family is reportedly working on another anthology series called Family Drama, which will focus on a different. All of a sudden,
now
you
I
don't
want it.
care, right?
Now I
It's
definitely
only
want
because HBO.
It brings peace among worlds, Brian.
Fair enough.
Well, and it's riding the anthology train, right? Like American Horror Story kicked it off. True Detective has carried it forward, and you can argue how successfully so far after 2 seasons. But this idea of, well, let's show you a story in a world 1 season and then not continue a story arc. that
Well,
second
and what's funny,
season.
in so many ways, we're actually, and I don't know if Tensor guys in the chat, but it's like in many ways we're catching up with the trend in Latin American television from 20, 30 years ago with the telenovelas. They would do very short, very specific series, and then they were done with it.
They were
That was
novellas.
the one thing.
That's hence the name. Let's see what's under surveillance then. Speaking of things you can watch, because that's what that segment's about. Under surveillance. Amazon is developing a series based on the movie Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest's co-writer, Robert Gordon, is writing the pilot. The film's director, Dan Paraso, will direct the pilot. They'll both executive produce along with the original film's producers, too. So it looks like this will be a pilot we can vote on.
Never give up. Never surrender. I forget the third line. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be freaking amazing.
This may
Padre-
actually work on Amazon Japan because it does have tentacles.
Assuming it follows the narrative
Comply for hentai.
Comply for hentai? Is that what
Comply,
you said?
not
Comply for
comply.
hentai. Yeah, dude. Galaxy Quest is one of my all-time favorite movies that is so undervalued. Like if in the world stock market of public perception of movies, Galaxy Quest is a buy. And I think knowing that the actual folks behind the original movie are behind it could be a very, very good thing.
Okay, by Grab Thar's hammer, I'm going to watch this pilot, and I'm hoping highly for it. But should it be... they'll bring in original cast members for guest duty because they can't afford to have them as the regular cast.
To be honest,
should it be
I
a
would not-
reimagining?
I would
Should
not
it be a
do
reboot?
anything. Yeah, it would be a reboot. It would be, in fact, I would figure out a way to make a season out of the first movie. We all know just like we.
So
went
you would
into-
you would mash it, because what MASH did was say, let's just start over with the story. Let's not
Correct.
try to continue the story.
Well, and keep in mind, we all knew the conceit of Galaxy Quest the moment we went into the movie theater, right? Because we had seen the previews, and as previews did, it took you through the first two acts to
I would
understand.
do Galaxy Quest: The Next Generation. They're making a new series, and nobody who's making that series knows what happened in the events of the movie.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And there's people who are like,
that.
you really shouldn't make this series, and they're like, why? This is, we're bringing it back. That's the thing.
And then that would give you the opportunity
To bring in
to
guest
bring that
stars.
cameos. We're
Yeah.
like, we're just saying, just understand, you're signing up for a real big deal. They're like, yeah, I know, it's a reboot of the franchise. They're like, no, you don't get it. It's a really big deal.
Padre's shaking his head.
I would just bring back Tim Allen. He hasn't been doing too much recently.
I know you mean that as a dig, but that's actually not the worst idea. But they won't, right? They've already announced some of the cast. Or I guess,
No, there's no cast announcements.
Oh, wow.
It was just my own supposition that they're all too expensive. But you're right about Tim.
except for Tim Allen. Although I tell you what, man, if I am Tim Allen, I would take that in a heartbeat, because this is a way to all of a sudden give some real. I'm going to use this word loosely, but gravitas. Those. If you are the part of a hit digital series, you have the chance to pull. Like a.
Well, and if HBO can bring in Matthew McConaughey,
That's exactly
and
what I
Woody
was thinking of.
Harrelson,
Yep.
Amazon should be able to pay maybe not everybody, but Sigourney Weaver, Sam Rockwell, bring them in for a few episodes.
It does complicate things from a narrative perspective. Why? But then other people come in just for a cameo here or there.
Yeah.
I could see that. I don't know. Regardless.
On Friday, Sean Ryan wrote on Twitter, thrilled to announce that after months of taking tests, that Sony and Fox are moving forward with a 4K conversion of The Shield.
So this is, I care less about again, forget the words 4K. 4K is the new HD. That's fine. And understand what we're looking at is, number one, this excites me because watching The Shield is an artifact from a different era, still 4:3, still shot on film, which is why they were able to upscale all this. If it weren't for the success of, and again, I haven't watched them, but listening to, is it David Simon who said good things about the upscaling of The Wire? He did that whole blog post talking about how some scenes work even better as a result of the widescreen. Others of them, they had to realign in order to have, to convey the same mood. In a world where The Wire can be upscaled to a degree that looks good and that tells the same story, it would be great to have because that was one of the toughest things, was for me to get you started on the Shield and to remind you, remember it's the 90s. Remember it's the 90s, Tom.
And honestly, the look of it was not the biggest thing. It was more the storytelling and sort of the assumptions they made. But the look wouldn't hurt. It'd be nice if they upgraded that look.
Padre, did you ever get into the Shield?
Is it a bad thing if I admit that I have never actually watched The Wire
I mean,
or
that's,
The Shield.
That's fine. I mean, you're just banned from the show from now on. That's fine.
Understandable,
But you
yeah.
can atone for your sins. No, it's I'll tell you what. It's a big. If you're going to give the pitch for taking the Shield challenge, what would you warn him?
I would say you really have to understand what year it was produced for the first 2 to 3 seasons and give yourself time to get familiar with the characters, and it will pay off in spades.
Yeah.
Tom, look at me. I'm still living in the 90s.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Just watch it on a 13-inch tablet, but pretend it's a 13-inch television.
Hey, man, so Netflix is licensing 2 movies from YouTube stars. If Smosh's Smosh the Movie and Jen McAllister and Lauren Mistaken Identity Adventure Bad Night don't sound familiar, it's probably because you're old, like me. I couldn't even pronounce Lauren
Luthringhausen.
What, say what?
Luthringhausen.
Wait, it says Schausen.
Luthringhausen.
Luthringhausen? See, look. The only way you,
old man.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we're both old.
You wanted to take that headline,
dude. One of us has a wife who works at YouTube. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's me. That's me. You're talking about me. Yeah. No, I don't actually know. I know Smosh. I don't know Lauren Luthringhausen, but I think it is, again, just demonstration of Netflix saying, you know what, we're gonna play to all the fields.
Yep.
And one of those fields is YouTube stars for that young 18 to 34 demographic.
Yep. Smart move. Keep digital celebrities in house and to bring because there's a real cachet to Netflix. There was a project that people were asking me about recently, and they were describing. They say, well, if this project will be digitally distributed, but and then as if to immediately correct for it, they're like, but not like on YouTube. It'll be somewhere premium like Hulu or even Netflix. Like to hear them talk about it, like Netflix has that kind of top of the line.
Well,
brand.
and it's funny, that is an old person's prejudice, and it's real.
Yes.
But if you're talking to somebody 18 to 34, here's the cool thing. I was at a taping of the James Corden show at YouTube Space. I was sitting next to 2 young YouTubers. I have no idea who they were. And the girl was saying how she only watches YouTube. She's like, oh, that's all I ever watch. And the guy was saying, well, I watch some Netflix, you know, because it's just easy to have on in the background. I don't have to pay that much attention. She's like, oh, I almost never watch Netflix. I just watch everything on YouTube. And it was the more conservative, older sounding person watched Netflix.
Right,
the
sure.
young, hip girl watched YouTube.
Of course, and that's accurate. That's the real thing.
Now, we usually talk about what we're watching at this point in the show. One of the things we weren't watching this past week was Mr. Robot for very sad, dramatic, but interesting reason. Because of the events with the shooting of 2 reporters, Mr. Robot decided not to air their season finale. And I wish I had looked up the exact words, but it had something to do with the fact that it would have reflected on real life events.
Well, and it would have appeared insensitive, I think, was the. I don't know if they said appeared, but they knew that there was content in there, and we weren't going to talk about this till spoiler in time, but maybe I'll bring it up. Would you agree, Father Robert, that the mere postponement for the reason, and they mentioned exactly which news story there was an element similar to, this is the weirdest global spoiler of all time to me. The fact that the mere cancellation or postponement of an episode based on a news story causes this speculation.
It says contains a graphic scene similar in nature to today's tragic events. Out of respects to the victim, their families and colleagues, and our viewers, we are postponing tonight's episodes.
I mean, number one, it's the right call, I think. And are you caught up on Mr. Robot, Father Robert?
I am, and I felt conflicted about this because there was part of me thinking, oh, they're just milking this, and it's horrible because they're milking this for the publicity. But it's not like Mr. Robot was an unknown show. People did know about it. It did have buzz, so I felt like they did it for the right reasons. But you're right. When they said that, I in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I know where this is going to happen. I see that's going to be the gut punch. So yeah, they basically spoiled their entire audience. But there wasn't another way to do it. They couldn't just show it and then have outrage. They couldn't just not show it and then not explain why they're not showing it. So this was pretty much the only way they could go.
Well, let's say this. I think we all agree that this was a classy move. It was the right move, and it's certainly in brand with everything else we've seen with Mr. Robot. They're a very, very savvy program. Let's say maybe we'll touch back on it with a little bit of speculation about what this means.
In spoiler in time, when we can actually spoil things for people who've watched it. Meanwhile, what I've been watching, 3 highlights. One, Star Trek Voyager, because Netflix's new autoplay thing kicked in on my Roku.
Yeah.
And I was just looking. I was like, oh, Star Trek Voyager. Now what is the description of the first episode? Totally out of curiosity, not intending to watch, and it started playing. And I'm like, I think I'm watching this. And now I've started watching Star Trek Voyager again.
And it just keeps on going.
Eileen wanted to watch What Happened, Miss Simone, the documentary from Netflix about Nina Simone. Absolutely fantastic. A very interesting life, a very talented singer, and a very well done documentary. And I finally watched the finale of Continuum, which I have to say, I really enjoy this series, and I really enjoy just being able to watch it when I want on Netflix and not feeling like I have to go chase it because it's on the air currently. So I don't know when season 4 comes back whether I'm going to bother. I'll just wait for it to come on Netflix.
It's interesting. Like, it's almost as though there is a value just to the binge-worthy experience, right? Where it's like you're willing to suffer the pain of not seeing it week to week.
I didn't even really binge it. I watched this season 3 over the course of 6 or 7 months. You know, I would watch maybe 1 or 2 at a time, and then I'd take a break, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm in the mood for Continuum today. I'll watch another one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was on airplane flights, and you could tell because I watched 12 Years a Slave, which was, that was a rough watch.
Brian in the DTNS chat room said, watch 12 Years a Slave on the flight. And I said, good for you. Totally not going to watch that for spoiler time. I'm sorry.
I will say it gives a very graphic and very real and, from what I understand, accurate portrayal of it.
I totally want to watch it. It was just not something I was in the
Well,
headspace
but again,
for.
like I still have never watched Schindler's List because I know I'm going to sign up to cry and feel terrible. And but I don't think 12 Years a Slave is quite that way, especially since, spoiler alert, he it's not called Forever a Slave. It's called 12 Years a Slave. Knowing that there's a positive ending to it, I think kept me into it. It's totally worth watching. And it's really shaped the book that I'm reading right now, which I can't remember the name of, that portrays the 11 nations of America.
9 Nations of North America by Joel
Yes.
Garreau.
The American Nations is the book, is the title. Talks about the different cultural stuff and knowing that there are entire subsections of America built on slavery and really getting a sense of it firsthand. There was a little bit of a parade of all the guest stars, like I'm Brad Pitt and I'm here for my Brad Pitt part. It's like I'm Sherlock, I'm here for my Sherlock part. And there's anyway. Very much worth watching. I also watched Second Best Marigold Hotel, or as I like to call it, Old People Can Bang Too. Man, is it really selling the illusion that when you're 70, you can bag a 40-year-old?
You're not 70.
It was really weird, though, because you're like, oh, old person I know, old person I know, old person I know. And then you're like, Richard Gere, why are you here? And then he goes, I'm 65. Oh, you're an old person too, Richard Gere. It was really weird. And plus, also, it sells a very romanticized, I think, version of India. It was weird coming from Asian countries where there are visceral differences from the West that are not represented in there, which I think is very interesting. And also watch 500 Days of Summer finally, which Brant Hughes will hopefully be very, very happy about. We'll talk about that in spoiler in time. Father
Robert, what have you been watching?
Well, I've been jumping into Deep Space Nine just because I remember that series from way back when, and I wanted to see if really I remembered it being my favorite Trek series, which I know will be blasphemous to some folks, but I've actually really enjoyed it. Netflix lost a lot of my favorite documentaries; they've kind of fallen off. So I went over to Amazon, and they actually have the entire Nova series. So that's sort of been running in autoplay in the background as I've been working in my lab. And the last one has been Doctor Who. Now, I only watch it once it lands on Netflix. So I finally got the latest season. And I've kind of been jumping back to make some connections in the reboot of Doctor Who. Not the reboot, I'm sorry, the continuation of Doctor Who to figure out all the little arcs. And that's sort of been my go crazy project time.
That's fun. I did that like season 3. I think I started going back and watching old Doctor Who episodes that informed current episodes, and that's a good time. That's a good.
There's a lot of fan service. that is the most fan service series that I know of.
That show may exist entirely on fan service. I'm not even certain. Bryce has been on the lookout for something for us every week lately. Bryce, do you still have something for us?
Yes, I do. I'm also joined with Brant Hughes in the background.
Hey,
Brant. I was tipped off to this by one of our viewers, and I saw when it came out on Netflix, but I wasn't initially I wasn't totally sold. It's called Knights of Sidonia. it's it's Netflix's first like anime original titles. I think it's kind of one of those things where they've licensed someone else's show exclusively. It follows this kid, Nagate, who is living underground with his grandfather and spends his days training on this Mark 17 virtual mech like robot suit. The grandfather dies, and he ends up finding out that there's a whole above ground society of people who have not only like created a real society, but have also evolved beyond like needing to eat and needing to have genitals.
Whoa.
And he ends up finding out that these monsters, the Ghana, are sort of plaguing humanity, and because he spent so much time training on that robot suit, he has got an intuition about how to actually use the real robot suits and how to attack the Ghana. It's weird. It's a weird show. And it has a weird take. It's very upfront with a lot of the very weird things. Like I wouldn't like, as weird as it was that I mentioned that they don't really have genitals, is about as abrupt as the show tells you. So
well, I mean, keep in mind this has been among futurists one of the things that you suppose for a spacefaring series, like why have legs either? Why not have 4 sets of arms, no genitals, and just plan on cloning everyone? So it's
yeah. They
I
talk
kind of
about
adore how out there this sounds. This sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
They talk about how another thing that humans have evolved to is photosynthesis. So they only eat once a week. And so you've got this kid who eats 3 times a day, and he's like, oh, you hungry, human? Like,
interesting.
It's weird
Eating
that
3
like
times a day, you hog. Jeez.
It's just weird that like they're so gossipy and witch hunty, but also like he is also like the savior of mankind or whatever. But
so, is there any chance that Knights of Sidonia was inspired by its title? Because I'm trying to find any reference to it before 2007, I think, which was when the song and amazing music video "Knights of Sidonia" from Muse came out. That's Cydonia. It's in Sidonia, the face on Sidonia on Mars. I can't find anything from this, so I wonder if the title was inspired by that.
Well, it was based on a manga in Japan, which started in 2009.
Yeah, so that would have been after Knights of Sidonia came out, that music video. Interesting.
Yeah. Which Sidonia is the name of the little space ship. Also, they're on a spaceship, which looks like the barrel of a gun, which I think is going to play into another thing. It's on Netflix. First season is all available. I want to say 12 episodes. I think they're half hours. And they're very traditional sort of anime setups with like the commercial break graphics and the theme songs and all. And that's on Netflix right now.
All right, let's take some dispatches from the front now, Bryce. Ridiculous. So Sarah in sunny Seattle, who, if it's the Sarah I think it is, I have met, and she's a lovely person, just listened to episode 84 and said, I agree with Allison Sheridan. I much prefer the giant all-you-can-eat model versus the nickel-and-dime-me-to-death model. Your discussion afterwards felt like I was listening to alternate history in a parallel world. I love my DVR. After I spend a few minutes setting it up, I'm done. I have a hand-tailored video feed that is exactly what I want, although I do have to fix things when I discover I'm recording SD. It shows me new episodes that I haven't seen of my favorite shows in order as they become available. I go one place, I see a cornucopia of TV. I can watch it weeks later without wondering if the license will expire. If a show goes on hiatus, I don't have to know when it is coming back. It just shows up. There's always something on my DVR I want to watch, and I can binge watch syndicated marathons of shows while skipping commercials. On-demand service makes up for any glitches or oversights I do have to be careful about too much stuff stacking up, but it seems manageable to me.
That's different strokes for different folks.
It's so funny because a lot of the things she talks about as minor concerns are the reasons I don't like DVR. Like the fact that I have to manage it at all. The fact that I have to go to on demand sometimes to fill in gaps. Like,
I would be interested.
it's just a different perspective.
I mean, I wonder if I would love to know a little bit more about Sarah's backstory, because if you evolve from traditional television and you find this perfect bliss in the DVR world, I would imagine that you stay in that perfect bliss and don't see the reason to alter it. But if you start from the null hypothesis, if you start from fresh out of college and are given different paths, if that shapes you, much like you and I are very impatient with DVR experiences.
Father Robert, I don't know about you, but I actually prefer even watching Hulu commercials than having to fast forward and find the right spot to press play again.
I'm with you, because there's one thing that will never ever show up on that DVR, and that is giant robot space pilots with no genitals.
See?
Never say never, but you're probably right.
We got an email here. I don't know who this one is from. I forgot to copy it over.
It's from Todd.
From Todd. I wrote there at the beginning. I wrote from Todd. Hey, guys.
I wanted to sound really smart, though.
No, that's great. Hey, guys. I know you both have viewing to-do lists that are probably a mile long, but I wanted to share something unique. The A&E crime drama Longmire was canceled on that network, apparently because it wasn't drawing the right demographic. It was A&E's most popular show, due in large part to the fan base providing die-hard support and some massive social networking outreach by some folks close to the show. It was picked up by Netflix as a new original. I haven't heard you talk about this particular show prior to its demise or on the news of its rebirth on Netflix. I think it's an interesting look at how one network may have shot itself in the foot because it didn't believe it had the right viewers. You can watch the three previous seasons on Netflix or catch the new season on September 10th. Hope to possibly hear your take on the show. I could have sworn we've at least mentioned it on the show here, or maybe I'm just thinking about all the tweets and stuff that we've gotten.
Yeah, but it sounds familiar to me too, but it's worth giving a shot to again.
It was in our Firefox autocomplete history, so I think we probably did.
Yeah.
All right.
But regardless, we'll make sure to give it another look.
Good recommendation. And then Jason wrote in and said, I'm listening to Spoiler in Time 85 when you're discussing the weird ordering for Mr. Robot episode numbers. Quick note, I took the numbering as a nod to the developer community because all arrays start at 0. First item in any array or list is at index 0. So if you initialize an array for 10 items like the episodes, you will have indexes of 0 to 9. Just another example of the show's creators trying to tie more of the hacker dev aspect to the show. I think you're right. That's what I assume too, Jason. You start an array at 0. That's pretty
How
cool.
great
Yeah.
that they're so good at this game that I like to think that the three of us are fairly well connected. That went over our head. That's
That's
amazing.
no. I assumed they were starting at 0 because of I don't know if I thought of it as arrays, but I assumed it was a developer oriented.
Well, sure, right. Here's what I took it as: is that you oftentimes you do a pilot not knowing if there'll be the rest, so that you list it as 1.0, and I would think
I took it as you start from 0 when you count a lot of things in computers. But this is a much better explanation.
Yes. Well, you guys are smarter than me.
I always start
so
at 0.
Peace
Actually,
of worlds,
if you look at
both of you.
if you look at the docs that I write for my shows, all my entries start with 0. I always start with that's just a developer thing. You always remember to start with 0, not 1.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Jason. And that's it for the show. Thank you, Father Robert.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I miss you guys.
Well, then the good news
Miss
is
us no more.
Yeah. You're in the trenches now. We're going to be calling on you once a month from now on. It's so great. Man, that just blew by. I can't believe it's already been an hour. We got a lot more to cover in Spoiler in Time coming up. Meanwhile, where can people see so much more of your beautiful body?
Well, I thought we weren't going to talk about that site anymore.
I mean, so much more of your beautiful
I think
insights.
Google removed that
because
from
that
the search
Ashley
results.
Madison hack was really it was devastating to the community. Yes. No, but you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/PadreSJ. You can also find me doing shows on the Twit TV network. I do Know-How on Thursdays. I do This Week in Enterprise Tech on Fridays, along with Before You Buy. And on Mondays, I do Coding 101. And on Saturdays, probably every other week, you're going to see me on the new Screensaver. So jump on in, say hi, and I'll probably say hi back if I'm not worrying about, giant robots.
Right.
And a lack of genitals.
Yeah, or the
And
fact
lack
that he
of
doesn't have photosynthesis. We worry about the same things. Thank you, Father Robert Balasaire. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv and alphageekradio.com every Monday, usually around 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Programming note, we will not be on next Monday, after I just said every Monday, because we'll be coming back from Dragon Con, and it's the Labor Day weekend here. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Hey guys,
Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.